Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. Inflation spikes to a 14-month high as vegetable prices soar, go beyond the RBI's upper tolerance band of 6%. Industrial output expands by 3.1% in September after contracting in August. Indian equities struggle to find traction on the back of weak earnings and subdued cues from Asia. Indices lose over 1% each despite a brief gap-up opening. The Nifty ends near a 5-month low. The rupee weakens to a fresh record low. The government's review of direct tax laws will not focus on potential income tax rate changes, say sources, just yet. It will look at ways to reduce the burden of litigation, including thorough tweaking of some penal provisions. The government is likely to present the findings and proposals of the review panel in the budget of 2025. Shares of biscuit major Britannia fall the most among Nifty stocks after it posted disappointing Q2 performance. Management flags higher commodity prices and weakening demands as volumes may take a hit in the short term. This just days after reporting disappointing numbers. Asian Paints says it's seeing weaker demand in urban centres. Elon Musk's Starlink is welcome in India, but there will be no concessions on licensing requirements as the telecom minister Scindia adds the satellite company is yet to comply with the relevant security standards. Japan's SoftBank Group is back in the black and in style. It records its biggest quarterly gains in 2 years as successful Indian IPOs, including Ola Electric and FirstCry, bolster the vision fund kitty. Performance helped by higher valuations of Chinese giant DD Global and South Korean e-commerce giant Coupang. Swiggy will list on the bourses on Wednesday. The 11,300 crore rupee IPO from India's second largest food delivery player was subscribed over 3 times, but the overall response was sluggish, with the issue reaching full subscription only on the last day. Israeli forces continue to execute military operations in Lebanon. Airstrikes are reported in southern Beirut as Israel's newly appointed defense minister dismisses talks of a ceasefire in Lebanon. Over a dozen people are killed in airstrikes in Gaza. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump starts giving shape to his hardline policy on China and immigration, is likely to pick Senator Marco Rubio, a bitter China critic, as Secretary of State, and Michael Waltz as his national security advisor. Tom Homan, the former head of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, will be in charge of deportation of illegal immigrants. On day 2 of the COP29 summit in Azerbaijan, countries approved carbon credit quality standards, paving the way for setting up a UN-backed global carbon market. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres warns world leaders that time is running out. Also on the show tonight, CNBC TV 18 travels to Marathwada, the agri heartland of Maharashtra, where farmers are keeping politicians on their toes ahead of the assembly elections. Well, before we get to all of that, a quick rundown of the day's market action. Indian equities started off modestly in the green, but then the gains were short-lived. Pressure from weak Asian cues continued, and we continue to see softness in corporate earnings, which sent the markets deep into the red once again. So 250 points low on the Nifty, the Sensex down 820 points, the mid-cap index as well as the Nifty Bank also closing in the red. In fact, the Nifty closing near a 5-month low, 44 of the 50 Nifty stocks ending in the red. In the currency market, the rupee continued to bear the brunt of a global dollar rally. The domestic currency weakened to a new record low of 84 rupees and 41 paise to the dollar, subsequently recovered, ending unchanged. The recovery was aided by dollar sales by PSU banks, presumably on behalf of the Reserve Bank. The rupee's weakness was also heightened by weakness across most Asian currencies, which fell between 0.3 to 0.9%. This makes the Indian currency the best performer amongst its peers. Let's talk about the big macro data, and it's not so good news. Retail inflation spiking in October to a 14-month high of 6.21%. But this puts inflation outside the RBI's comfort zone. Industrial output, meanwhile, has improved a tad in September, coming in at 3.1%. Lata is standing by now to decode the numbers. Lata, the governor did hint at the fact that the October inflation number wasn't going to look pretty, and it doesn't.
Yes, that's right. It's a nasty inflation number at 6.21%. Our own poll was 6, which was on the higher side. The number at 6.21 is at the higher level of our range. We had quite a few readings at 5.9 as well. The biggest culprit, obviously, food at 10.87%, pulled up by vegetables at 42% year on year. But, if it was only vegetables, we could have taken it as a one-off. The point is, edible oils are also up about 9%. That's because the tariff was hiked. As well, cereals have come in at about 7% higher year on year, 6.94 to be precise. Month on month, there has been a 1% rise in cereals. When if it was such a good Kharif and such a good Rabi expectation, what explains the rise in cereals? All this indicates that food inflation could be a little more sticky even if the biting vegetable inflation recedes in the month of November and December. There is a problem for the Reserve Bank as far as food inflation is concerned, because it doesn't respond to interest rates. The core inflation at 3.7 also indicates that we've moved a distance from the 3.1 that it was earlier in the year, and that also could inch higher. All told, it's an uncomfortable combination for the Reserve Bank. It will move off towards the 5% mark in November because of the base effect and because of the fall in vegetable prices. But this is the last number for the Reserve Bank as it goes into the monetary policy. And therefore, we should expect that the Reserve Bank brings this into the full year forecast. The full year forecast stands at 4.5 for the Reserve Bank. They may be forced to raise it arithmetically to at least 4.7 or 4.8. And when you are raising the inflation number, you can't sound dovish. So that is a given now, that the Reserve Bank's rate cut expectations, if any, gets pushed to February. The IIP number is very good at 3.1%, manufacturing at 3.9%, but that's a small part of the GDP. Nevertheless, for the July, August, September GDP number, which comes out on November 29th, the inflation number, the IIP number will not move the needle much. There, the bulk of the expectation is that we will get a soft number of about 6.5 or 6.6% growth for the second quarter. But that, of course, we will know on November 29th.
Well, Lata, many thanks. Yes, there is an inflation problem that the Reserve Bank is going to have to deal with. But let's talk about cryptocurrencies. They've been rejoicing since Donald Trump emerged victorious in the US presidential elections, and that party rages on. The Bitcoin continues its record-breaking rally. It's closed in on the $90,000 mark. The surge has been fueled by expectations of a more crypto-friendly regulatory environment under the Trump administration. It has risen over 25% just since Trump's victory on the 5th of November, and this has taken the market cap beyond $1.75 trillion, which is higher than that of silver. Well, on to global earnings now. SoftBank back in the black. The Japanese multinational investment holding company reporting its biggest quarterly profit in 2 years. Overall net income rose to $7.7 billion in the July-September quarter. That's much higher than expectations. And the steep rise in gains is being attributed to significant growth in its Vision Fund tech arm. And Rachna is here with more on SoftBank's earnings. Rachna, take us through what's boosting SoftBank's profit and the India link to that.
That's absolutely correct. The Vision Fund reported gains of 373 billion yen, driven largely by strong IPO performances and rising valuations in key investments like Coupang and DD Global. But it's India that's really paying off for SoftBank. The recent listings of startups like Ola Electric and FirstCry have registered strong returns. FirstCry, which was a part of the first Vision Fund, was an investment of about $400 million, but the return is of $1.2 billion for SoftBank. Another one is Ola Electric, which was a part of the second Vision Fund and an investment of about $600 million. And now the return is of about $1 billion. Apart from this, Delivery, which is an already listed logistics company, also gave strong returns of about $306 million to SoftBank. SoftBank is also confident of their pipeline. That's the company that are set to debut in the public market soon. First up is, of course, Swiggy, which will be listed tomorrow, with SoftBank's stake in the food delivery company to be valued at about $803 million. It registers a 78% rise in their investment since 2022. Another upcoming IPO will be of Off Business, which is also expected to be a $1 billion IPO, which will be launched sometime next year. But this is the first time that the Vision Fund has marked a profit in about 9 months. So it looks like harvest season for SoftBank for all the investments they had made in the last couple of years. But that's not it. The company has now set its sights on artificial intelligence, with SoftBank's Vision Fund shifting focus to strategic investments in generative AI. The latest bets include notable names like OpenAI and Perplexity AI. Through the second SVF, the company has invested about $500 million in OpenAI. And with AI fast being integrated around the world, the gains through artificial intelligence are soon expected to show in SoftBank's financial statements.
Rachna, many thanks for joining us. Now, restaurant aggregator and grocery delivery giant Swiggy will debut on the bourses tomorrow. The 11,300 crore rupee IPO from India's second largest food delivery player was subscribed over 3 times. However, the overall response was sluggish, with the issue reaching full subscription on the last day. Asian Paints remained under pressure on account of its underwhelming second quarter performance. The stock has dropped over 11% in 2 days, wiping out 28,000 crore rupees worth of investor wealth. Speaking to CNBC TV 18, the Asian Paints management CEO Amit Singhal said that muted consumer sentiment has hurt performance. Singhal also claimed that demand in urban centres is weakened in the ongoing quarter. Take a look.
October was a shorter Diwali. We had lesser number of days of retailing to that extent. And we also have a fairly high base in quarter 3 overall, as we see. We are a little bit cautious in terms of the overall demand conditions because we are seeing urban centers a little bit much weaker as compared to even to the rural centers, which have definitely kind of come up to that extent.
Well, Asian paints there. Speaking of sluggish demand, and shares of Britannia also took a beating in trade after reporting a weak set of numbers in Q2. The stock was the biggest loser on the Nifty. In an earnings call, the company's management said that there may be some impact on volumes in the short term. They also said the demand scenario is not as robust as has been seen in the past. On to a CNBC TV 18 exclusive. The agenda of the government's review of the direct tax laws will not include changing tax rates just yet. Sources tell CNBC TV 18 that the government is also undecided on whether any changes to tax laws will be actioned through amendments or a whole new act. Timsy is here with more. Timsy, take us through what's on the government's agenda.
As government is currently conducting a comprehensive review of the direct tax laws, sources tell CNBC TV 18 that the review is likely to focus on easing legal hurdles and reducing the litigation burden for both the government and the industry. As part of the review, sources indicated that the Revenue Department is currently focusing only on easing the language and it is not in favor of changing any rates. Also, sources shared that the review of the existing Income Tax Act 1961 is to look at easing certain penal provisions and cutting down litigation. To conduct this review, remember, the Central Board of Direct Taxes had formed an internal panel which is right now considering to providing clarity in provisions via simplified interpretations. It is also understood via sources that the panel is also in favor of adding FAQs for absolute clarity in assessing the provision's intent for both taxpayers and the officers. However, whether the review will be presented in a form of a new act or will it be moved via bringing in certain amendments, that is something that the government has not yet decided. Apart from this, sources indicated that the review may result in major easing in the provisions of TDS, TCS, capital gains, clarifying on issues like taxpayers' classification, income sources, etc. And the aim of the government is to present these findings of the review committee and the proposals from the direct tax laws review in the upcoming budget 2025 in February. Let's see what will the review finally unveil for the taxpayers, something that we'll have to wait and watch for. Back to you.
All right, Timsy, many thanks. Now, Telecom Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia gave an important clarification on billionaire Elon Musk's Starlink. He said the company is yet to comply with the relevant security standards in India. Ashmit joins us now with more. No go yet for Starlink, Ashmit?
What fate awaits Elon Musk owns Starlink's India aspirations? An important clarification coming in from the Indian Telecom Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia. He's clarified that Starlink has still not complied with all the relevant security norms. An important clarification coming in at a time when Elon Musk is looking keenly for approval for the license that he's applied for through Starlink for India aspirations. Now, over a Chai Pe Charcha with the media, a question that was posed to the telecom minister essentially was, what is the road ahead as far as licensing framework is concerned for Starlink? Now, on that count, the minister gave a twofold answer. Number one, as far as the spectrum is concerned, the pricing of the spectrum, the mode of allocation of spectrum, that is to be decided by the telecom watchdog, which in this case happens to be the TRAI. On the question of licensing, however, the word that came in from the telecom minister is that Elon Musk is welcome to Indian shores, but just like any other party applying for a license, Elon Musk, Starlink, will have to meet with all the relevant security norms. The Indian government, the DOT, is open to the idea of issuing license, but it will be subject to compliance with these security norms. Those security norms have not been fully complied with, and when they are, is only and only when the Indian government will consider issuance of a license to Elon Musk-owned Starlink. So clearly an issue here, a stumbling block. Elon Musk, Starlink, yet to comply with the security standards for a license to operate in India.
All right, Ashmit, many thanks. In court corner, the BCCI is likely to move the National Company Law Tribunal to seek the withdrawal of insolvency proceedings against Byju's. The Supreme Court had quashed the NCLAT order, allowing a settlement between the two parties. Byju's US lenders have also sought the removal of the company's insolvency resolution professional. The lenders have also demanded that the Committee of Creditors be constituted afresh. India is absolutely a long-term bet for investors. That's the word in from Knight Frank Global Chair William Beardmore. Speaking to Ritu Singh, Gray added that the company is seeing marquee investors including Brookfield and Blackstone making significant bets on the Indian economy. He added that India and Australia are the two biggest markets for the company outside of Britain.
We've seen, for the last 10 years, you have the likes of Blackstone, Brookfield, Ivanhoe Cambridge, etc., have made significant bets on the Indian economy, which, those who were in earlier are very pleased with those. And that success is attracting other investors.
While the big global story, tensions in West Asia continue to rise. Iran-backed militia group Hezbollah launching a barrage of rockets into northern Israel. Reports suggest that over 160 rockets were fired towards the region, leaving 7 people injured. Israel's newly appointed Defense Minister Israel Katz has dismissed reports of a ceasefire in Lebanon. Katz has said Israel will continue to strike Hezbollah with the full force. Meanwhile, Israeli forces continue to bombard Gaza, killing at least 25 people in the region. The military has also stepped up its offensives in Lebanon, killing 17 people. US President-elect Donald Trump has started giving shape to his hardline policy on China and immigration. He's likely to pick Senator Marco Rubio, a bitter China critic, as the Secretary of State, and Michael Waltz as the National Security Advisor. Parikshit is standing by with more. Parikshit, Trump 2.0 taking shape. What does the A-team look like so far?
President-elect Donald Trump has not wasted any time in putting together his cabinet. The immediate focus seems to be the crackdown on illegal immigration, deportation and addressing the China threat. Let's begin with Marco Rubio, who according to 3 US publications is likely to be picked for Secretary of State. Now, Rubio is a senator from Florida and is of Latin American origin. He's someone who has pushed for a tough and muscular foreign policy on China specifically, also on Iran and Cuba. He's also someone who had unsuccessfully challenged Trump's presidency in 2016. Michael Waltz, the former US military veteran, is most likely to be the next US National Security Advisor. What is significant is that he's also the co-chair of the India caucus in the US Congress. Again, like Rubio, he's known for a tough stand on China. Waltz has maintained that the US military is not prepared for the conflict in Indo-Pacific. He's also demanded that NATO spend more on military preparedness. Then you have Tom Homan, also known as the border czar, for his hard line on immigration. He's likely to be made in charge of Trump's plan for large-scale deportation. He's a former head of US Immigration and Customs Enforcement. He recently backed calls for large-scale deportation and for entire families to be deported together. For White House Chief of Staff, Trump has chosen Susie Wiles, a trusted advisor and key architect of the Trump re-election campaign. Known as publicity shy, she drafted Trump's strategy for winning over Hispanics and working-class Americans. That's the Trump A-team for now. More could be onboarded in the next few days. One thing is for certain, Trump 2.0 will adopt a more hardline policy on immigration, China and military might.
Parikshit, many thanks for joining us. And speaking of Donald Trump, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has responded to the US President-elect's recent comments that India is a tariff abuser. Sitharaman said that Indian tariffs are not intended to curb imports but to support growing domestic industry. She added that it is the government's moral authority to protect industries that are producing in India. Up next on India Business Hour, CNBC TV 18 travels to Marathwada, the agri heartland of Maharashtra, where farmers are keeping politicians on their toes ahead of the assembly elections. Catch CNBC TV 18's news and updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. Well, let's now turn the spotlight on COP29, the United Nations annual summit on climate change. The world's largest multilateral development banks have pledged to raise $120 billion in annual climate finance for developing nations by the end of 2030. Meanwhile, the president of Azerbaijan, the host country, has lashed out at Western critics for what he calls a well-orchestrated campaign of slander and blackmail. He further said oil is a gift of God and oil-producing countries should not be blamed for using their resources. The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has asked countries that are major greenhouse gas emitters to pay up before it's too late. A Dutch court has accepted Shell's appeal against a landmark climate ruling which had ordered the oil giant to cut down emissions. The court dismissed the 2021 ruling, which had asked Shell to cut down emissions by 45% by 2030. India's craving for healthy snacks seems to be on the rise. A Nielsen report highlights that over 60% of consumers surveyed have opted for innovative and healthy snacking options. Shilpa standing by with more details. Shilpa, what are Indians snacking on?
Well, you know, it's superfoods, it's baked not fried, it's no added sugar, multigrain. You know, Indians are now increasingly watching what they eat, and that's even when they're snacking. So not only has India emerged as the second fastest growing market in the APAC region, it is also what is leading growth here is healthy snacking. Now, 63% of consumers that were surveyed by Nielsen IQ are seeking healthy snacking options, and 50% now read the ingredient labels to understand the nutrition values. Now, as a result, smart snacking in India is growing 1.2 times faster than your otherwise traditional snacks that we were consuming. Now, this is thanks to a rise in lifestyle diseases among consumers, and that is driving consumers to prioritize snacks that promote bone health, immunity, heart health, gut health, and are looking for rich in nutrition, foods that are rich in nutrition and that come with natural ingredients as well. And they want them on the go. So small and affordable single packs are also driving demand, growing 60% faster than traditional snacks. Now, from a geographical point of view, metros are what are leading this trend, and South and East Asia, in fact, account for 60% of the smart snacking market. Interestingly, this trend is also spilling into the consumer tech space with, you know, fitness wearables are growing nearly 60%. Air fryers have been actually growing more than 100%. Then no surprise that consumer companies are also hopping onto this trend. In fact, today, 1 in 5 snacks in India have a health connotation attached to it. And if you take a step back and look at the larger picture, then this could indicate that there's a much larger shift in urban consumption that is now opting for healthier options and perhaps moving away from picking up those regular chips and biscuits that they were otherwise picking up from store shelves.
Right, Shilpa, many thanks for joining us. Now, the death toll in a fire at the Indian Oil Corporation refinery in Gujarat has risen to 2. A blast in a benzene storage tank led to a massive fire breakout in the factory yesterday. The blaze spread to adjoining tank in Gujarat's Vadodara district on the 11th of November. The fire was brought under control and operations now are back to normal. 43 seats to go to polls tomorrow in phase 1 of the Jharkhand Assembly election. 683 candidates, including 73 women in the fray. Close to 1 crore 37 lakh voters in the state are eligible to cast their vote in phase 1. The remaining 38 seats will head to the polls on the 20th of November. While staying with elections, on to Maharashtra. The assembly elections around a week away. Campaigning by both the Mahavikas Aghadi and the Mahayuti have hit fever pitch, and both blocs see farmers of the Marathwada region as a key vote bank. In our ongoing series, Election Exchange Battle for Maharashtra, Sante Gora spoke to the farmers in the region for what they want from the next government.
This is the Marathwada region of Maharashtra, and it's long been known for farmer suicides. Farmers, who make up nearly 75% of the population of this region, have been struggling for decades. They have suffered droughts and unseasonal rainfall. They have had to contend with low minimum support prices for their crops, learned to live with promised crop compensation being delayed or not coming at all, and labor under the burden of mounting debt. Their list of troubles is long and old.
खत के भाव बढ़ गए हो, वो अवश्य उसको भी परवड़ता नहीं है। अब ये कपास भी है, ज़्यादा बारिश होने के बाद डैमेज हो गई।
हम जो बुआई करते हैं तो उसके बाद में उसका फसल का कोई लागत में नहीं मिलता है, उसका प्रोडक्शन ही नहीं हो पाता, तो फिर उसमें कैसा उधर निर्वाह करेंगे हम।
इस पौधे में जो ये बोन है, इसका एक जाता है सीड के लिए, एक जाता है खरपतवार निकालने के लिए, और एक जाता है इसकी मजदूरी के लिए, और जो कुछ बचा है वो बारिश में निकल के जाता है, कुछ कीटनाशकों के वजह से जाता है, और जो प्राप्ति किसानों को होनी चाहिए वो नहीं होती।
It doesn't matter whether the farmers grow cotton or soybean or onions. Their pain points are similar. MSP has been a major one. In the Lok Sabha elections, a discontent among soybean farmers played a role in the NDA struggling to keep its head above water. It reacted by hiking MSP for soybean by 292 rupees per quintal. But farmers say the hike means nothing if there is no procurement.
4,892 क्विंटल की एमएसपी होने के बावजूद भी कितने में बेचना पड़ रहा है आपको अपना माल?
3,500 में 3,500 में बेचना पड़ रहा है।
ये पैसा नहीं देता, गारंटी नहीं रहता हमारे गांव में। पहले तो हमको गारंटी नहीं रहता, इसलिए हम उधर जाते नहीं। गए तो इस साल का पैसा अगले साल नहीं आता, तो हम बाल बच्चों को क्या मट्टी खिलाए?
The Mahayuti government in the state, however, insists procurement is picking up.
मैंने खुद सेंट्रल मिनिस्टर जो कंसर्न मिनिस्टर है उनसे कहा, एग्रीकल्चर मिनिस्टर से भी कहा कि जो परचेज सेंटर है वो ज्यादा बढ़ाने की आवश्यकता है।
सर वो कहते हैं शुरू ही नहीं हुए हैं।
नहीं शुरू हुए हैं, कौन कह रहे हैं?
सर किसान कह रहे हैं।
देखो
पिछले ही हफ्ते उन किसानों से
देखिए सेंटर शुरू है, बढ़ाने की जरूरत है, उसको बढ़ा रहे हैं।
The opposition has picked up on the farming community's discontent.
Giving good prices was an option Maharashtra government had. Be it soybean, be it onion, be it milk, be it cotton. Why did the Maharashtra government not give prices which are fair to the farmers of Maharashtra? It was in there. You didn't need a central government for that.
This leaves the ruling party in a tight corner, and experts suggest it may seek to divide farmer votes along caste lines as a last resort.
Often in the past, caste dynamics has taken precedence over farmers' own issues when it comes down to actual voting. And so in Marathwada, where a significant number of farmers belong to the Maratha community, caste-based reservation issue is intertwined with the agricultural concerns. And experts suggest that this combination could cost the BJP votes. Experts also say that that's why the party is trying really hard to divide Maratha votes so that the opposition cannot consolidate them. In Bid with camera person Swapnil Bandekar, this is Santhya for CNBC TV 18.
And with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. Do stay tuned. The news will continue right here on CNBC TV 18. We're back in a moment with more.